for those that would be curious to see what happens towards the end as we go through today. And honestly, it's just something new and exciting. Breakable Barriers is just a really great opportunity for teams to come together, register, sign up, and go head-to-head for that lovely cash prize.
Yeah, there's a big cash prize on the line for both all of these teams that are involved. So you know that people are going to be fighting for that. But not only is it a great way to just have teams come together, but it's also a great way to test out the meta. We're looking at a brand new Open Division season, which you could already sign up for, by the way. So go get your teams together, maybe go sign up for the Open Division season that's coming up in January. But that's kind of why teams are starting to practice in a little bit higher stakes environment, because we do just have a new patch, and yeah, there's some excellent things to be discovered here.
Yes, indeed. And if, again, you're just tuning in, we've already talked a lot about it, how the supports role, you know, the level of gameplay is really critical. There's a lot riding on their shoulders now. There's a lot of variation to what we see in the current meta ever since that reduction in shield barriers that we've had from the Sigma, the Orisa, even potentially the Reinhardt that's seen a reduction. Though it's allowed Reinhardt to start to move back into a favorable usage rate, it's still interesting to see how these supports have changed around. We've seen Baptiste, we've seen Zen, we've seen a little bit of Ana trickled and sprinkled here and there, and really just the synergies of these teams. And as we're going to go into this now, it will be the first map of Nepal, which we will be consistently starting off with for each one of these best of fives.
Nepal is a great starting ground for a lot of these teams because of the architecture of the map. It really allows you to feel out your opponent. So even if you don't necessarily take the first one, you can learn about your opponent's play style and then adjust to it as you move further on. But we're starting out on Village, and this one's going to be a great stomping ground for Mei specifically. You've got Shammy on Aegis Triomphe that's going to be running the Mei for that team, and from Celtic Cross Revenant, you have Peanut that's going to be running it. But look at the different approach that both of these teams are taking. Because Aegis Triomphe is making it to point first, their Mei wall is going to have a little bit more value here, just blocking off the sight lines of Celtic Revenant.
Yeah, that Lucio movement speed by Mankey on the side of Aegis is really giving that point presence first, where it's going to be Celtic having to be very careful to drop down to contest onto this point. That Maywell getting a nice deflection of a lot of damage here, rotating onto the point. You see Aegis actually claiming it first, and really just going to look to hold back Celtic until that first pick can come out.
I think that this was a little bit of a troublesome spot for Celtic Cross Revenant when they approached from the high ground, but now they're able to approach them at the front, and Amplification Matrix already out.
Nice damage boosted here on the front side. Peanut getting a kill early, rotating around the outside. Aegis playing very respectful with that immortality field to make sure that they survive through the damage. 22% almost stripped away. Nice haul to bring it in, and you have the changeover with Celtic taking the point.
Celtic's going to take the point, and all thanks to Vintagio there on that Sigma. Great accretions, great call to action there for the team, and now they're going to be taking control of the high ground. This gives them such a tactical advantage watching Aegis Triomphe make their way back in, because you can rotate really cleanly from here, and we'll already see also, just based on the Sonic Arrow that Sterben put down, that we are going to have them have a high ground battle.
Dragon Strike through that back line, trying to get the kill. Halt's going to pull a few members back into it, but that Immortality Field is there to mitigate some of it. Too much on the front, though. John going to get a great amount of damage. That Discord Orb really speaking volumes for that Focus Fire, and still keeping the point at 35%.
That is a difference between these two squads, is the support line that they're running. Yes, both teams seem to have a Baptiste, but the difference between the Zenyatta and the Lucio is really critical in this matchup. Just because you're absolutely right, Discord Orb just gives so much agency to the whole team, and if you're able to focus fire, which is important for the very first round of this tournament, it can help you a lot in order to take over these big team fights.
Nice wall separation. You're going to get that ambush out quickly with the Transcendence on the front from Celtic to try and press forward. A lot of mitigation with that support ultimate. Blocking the Earth Shatter as well with the barrier to prevent with the wall. Still heavily in favor of Celtic. That Blizzard really making sure that this point is controlled, and at 73%. Last fight territory coming up.
Last fight territory for sure here, especially because it's taking Aegis Triumph just a little bit to reconvene and figure out their next plane of attack. They've consistently been taking this high ground approach, but I think they're going to switch it up a little bit here, go main, and this will fare a little bit better for them as long as they can make it through the wall.
That separation on the Sigma was critical. Only one out in the open for Aegis. Will get overrun. Sweeped around the back with the drop down from the Mei. Dragon Strike to ensure that nobody there can make it. And that bell that you heard was a team kill for Celtics going into now this second map to try and claim this back-to-back.
Will be able to claim it back-to-back maybe. But we've got another map, Rich. So we do have Shrine, and this is where we see a little bit of a flex in that hero pool. So I maybe want to see a Pharah come out here because of the verticality that this map allows, but I'm also okay with seeing more of a mirrored composition here. And look at this, already seeing some support swap ups from Aegis Triomphe. I'm proud of them for making this adjustment right now.
And you saw him originally look for that movement speed. Point presence was there, truly significant to get there. But because, like we talked about, that Discord orb holding a lot of value for that pick potential, it was just so much more valuable. And Salty Wolf recognizes that.
Yeah, Salty Wolf is definitely going to recognize the value of that Zenyatta. Those Discord orbs are just targets for knocking over dominoes, particularly for Celtic Cross Revenant. But this first team fight is going to mean a lot for both of these squads. They want to win out this mirror engagement.
Early pick as well. Going to come out, taking down Aegis's frontline tank. Salty Wolf to go closely after. The Mei just getting a lot of freeze and crowd control in the front, allowing Celtic to continue pushing forward and making sure to reinforce this initial hold. 5% in climbing.
Peanut's not just getting freeze, they're also putting up some big walls, which makes it so difficult for any of the healing to get through. Now that Aegis Triomphe has moved over to a Baptiste and a Zenyatta as a part of their composition, you have to have sightlines for those to work. The Orb of Tranquility won't stay on your target if they get blocked off by a wall. So you need to be really careful about that, and Aegis Triomphe might actually want to go back over to the Lucio to try to get past these walls.
Hanzo coming up on the high ground for Celtic, looking for a pick, manages to take down the counterpart. There's the follow-up by Big Nick on the Orisa, getting some great flanking positions and utilizing this high ground here with the Hanzo to really overwhelm Aegis.
Gonna be an overwhelming team fight win for Celtic Cross Revenant for sure, but now we are seeing teams work up to those ultimates. Mankey on the side of Aegis Triomphe does have the Baptiste amplification matrix. We also might see a Blizzard come out too soon from Shammy, and if the Blizzard hits first, that might be enough power for Aegis Triomphe to get in and win these team fights, but the percentage is climbing for Celtic Cross Revenant. Aegis Triomphe has to move in quickly.
Yeah, with that 65%, it draws towards that potential last fight territory if any more time is continued to be held. Transitioning around this backside, Mankey with the amplification matrix going to lead into this potentially, but the Blizzard's going to come out first by Peanut, isolating multiple members away, cleaning up quickly. There's the Big Nick follow-up with multiple members getting kills. 80%. This will be a quick engage, and it needs to be for Aegis to even touch the point.
That happened quickly enough that Aegis Triomphe should be able to come back to this point and still fight as a team of 6. Yes, they have 10 seconds, but they do have a Tracer now as Everett decided to move over to that speedy hero, so should be able to blink to point.
Now the Tracer in the back going to get blocked and distracted. Is anybody going to be able to touch it? No! Going to come up short. The wall was there even further on the high ground to prevent a Celtic Cross Revenant taking this first map of control on Nepal.
We'll take the first map of control, but now this is what I'm talking about. Aegis Triomphe understands the way that Celtic Cross Revenant wants to play this game. And the way that they're really playing this is, let's get those tanks down first. Whoever's in our way, we're just going to roll over them like a bulldozer. And that's just been kind of how they're playing this, almost like a pseudo GOATS composition. So I'm super excited to see that Celtic Cross Revenant has that focus fire. But now Aegis Triomphe knows how to get around that because they understand how Celtic Cross Revenant wants to play this game.
And, you know, to piggyback off of that, not only with the selection and composition kind of using that against their opponent, but it's really also nice to see the similarities between the EU playstyle and the NA playstyle, and that they're, you know, adopting those types of things, knowing and realizing across the world what these types of meta shifts are. And with the next map, it will be a selection of, from Escort, it's going to be Route 66, Watchpoint Gibraltar, or Havana. And it's actually going to be a quick selection here on Route 66, and we've seen this before. A lot of changes. You talked a lot, too, about the opportunity of having Widowmaker kind of thrown in the mix here, the long sight lines, potential verticality here with Faraz. There's so much to this.
Yeah, the verticality is really the biggest point that I think makes Route 66 so special. And those flanks. Those flanks can be so critical for teams to surprise their opponent. So I want to see maybe a little bit more of a surprise factor coming in from Aegis Triomphe, because that could really keep Celtic Cross Revenant on their toes.
Definitely. And as we have the positioning, it will be on the attacking side, Celtic Cross Revenant versus Aegis Triumph. So Triumph on the defensive side first, able to kind of engage the level of aggression on this type of map where the payload is not in a stationary position. This, moving obstacle that does involve this type of style in an escort map really can change up the way that players, I guess, just coordinate. We saw it a lot on Havana recently from EU, where just that change up in having a movable objective really can adjust how the team can accelerate forward, how they play defensively, how they're able to maintain a position, and really stagger out a lot of individuals.
It's about setting up. Some teams just fare better when they have a couple seconds to breathe and come in with a game plan, but a lot of teams also, they might favor just going with the flow, rolling with the momentum that they have from that movable point. So this is going to tell us a lot about just the pace of which these teams want to play. But I want to talk about this defense because Aegis Triumph is making an effort to switch up their composition here. They have a Farmer-C duo, and they also have the double shield. So this is going to be a great crossfire they're able to set up here as this card starts to roll for Celtic Cross Revenant.
Turning this corner is going to be critical too, just making sure to watch that ramp for the high ground positioning. If there's going to be any point presence potential with the Sigma play, we've seen it a lot in the past here on that upper bridgeway. Sammy actually going to get an early takedown onto the Baptiste. Nice job with that Pharah play for a defensive side, but the Widow instantly going to come out by Sternback.
Yeah, that Widowmaker is going to put a lot of pressure on this Farmer-C duo, but look at how well Shammy and Mankey, the Pharah and the Mercy respectively for Aegis Triumph, are playing around this wall. They're not allowing Sturban to have those sightlines quite yet, but Sturban's coming.
Oh, getting almost picked off in the back line. Those Hanzo arrows hyper-focused on Sturban with that Widow play. Hall's going to pull multiple members up into the air for Aegis to try and hopefully get a pick. That wow. That amplification matrix actually going to be placed just around the corner, a little bit further back. Can't seem to get as much positional value for boosted damage, but with that force onto Shammy and Mankey immediately after the front line's taken, no way to survive it.
No, not yet. Salty Wolf's actually trying to make a bit of an escape here, which Celtic Cross Revenant might not allow, but at least because they were able to survive, we will see Salty Wolf come back and provide some sustain to the front line that's also being in for reinforcements for Aegis Triumph.
Early pick by the Widow to take down the Pharah. Blizzard will be activated on the point to try and reduce the mobility of this team for Aegis, managing to do so. Celtic Cross keeping the momentum and really still utilizing this Widowmaker.
Yeah, the Widowmaker has been putting in so much work for Celtic Cross Revenant just because the tanks on that team for Big Nick and Vintaggio, they're creating so much space. Like, look at how aggressive Vintaggio is getting on the Sigma. They're taking over the high ground. They're really taking over control of the pace of the game, and that's just allowing Sterben to be in the back and pop off. It's the same thing with SlyRL, who is on the Zenyatta that's just going to be sitting on payload with Big Nick. The tanks are really making all of the space right now to provide agency for the DPS and the supports.
Sturban trying to get that rear positioning to contest the backline early. We've got the Dragon Strike to come out there again. Shami being brought down. Really could look for that usage of the Rocket Barrage before the changeover, because this Widow is just being extremely countersome to the gameplay as that payload will reach its stop for the current moment. Contested in the center. That Flux going to lift up multiple members, but does not gain nearly as much value as the Supercharger here for Celtic. Really just consistently allows the team to push forward.
Oh, Silly Banana went down a champ, though. Finally, Sterben gets taken out of the fight, and while there's not an ability for Aegis Triumph to come back and recontest for this defense, they are switching things up with their composition for a much more brawly part of the map. They were thinking about the Brigida. They're actually going to give up all their ultimate charge on the supports, and they're going back to the Baptiste and the Zenyatta that we saw at the earlier points of this map. So that's going to be an interesting choice coming out from them. But now the Supercharger is zoning off all the members of Celtic Cross Revenant.
Keeping everyone just behind that payload. Understanding that that Supercharger will lose in just a moment as the Blizzard comes out right when the Supercharger falls. Exceptional amounts of damage being from Celtic Cross to push back Aegis. Last opportunity here for Aegis to really regroup, trying to survive with the Hanzo. Pulled right back in with Peanut taking that lovely shot and Icicle to the face. And now they need to get back with 4 minutes to work with.
Yeah, and then fortunately they don't have any ultimates, so Aegis Triomphe really is up a creek without a paddle here, and the wall is stopping them from being able to touch this cart.
Needs to get onto it, not gonna happen. The flux gonna be there, but the contest happens at literally 3 zeros. Transcendence coming out to secure the last few members going down as Celtic Cross Revenant will, for the closest margin I think I've seen on this map, finally complete it.
They will finally complete it, but man, oh man, that stall coming in from Aegis Triomphe, that was really exciting. But this is still a tall order. Celtic Cross Revenant finished all 3 points with 3 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. And now it's Celtic Cross Revenant's turn to go on the defense here. With already a map win under their belt, are they one of those types of teams that swings with their emotion in terms of just rolling through this match?
And, you know, again, those emotions can be very, very difficult to handle going forward for this, but they can also be very uplifting. As we have this, again, attacking side for Aegis, the biggest part that I'm concerned about is now that we've already seen the Pharah play come out by Aegis, they rotated to that May. Celtic Cross could respond early with a Widow if Aegis feels confident to bring the Pharah out first.
Okay, maybe seeing the Pharah, but I don't think we're going to. Not after how much pressure Sterben put on that Pharmacy. Sterben even is almost like, you're not running the Pharah. I don't need to run a Widowmaker here because I already did that work. So I could feel comfortable to play this Hanzo, which is probably more of a comfortability pick here, especially in this meta with the double shield still. Yeah, you're just doing so much damage with those storm arrows to delete those shields. And of course, the Sonic Arrow provides so much information to the rest of the team. Now Celtic Cross Revenant's pretty sure about what Aegis Triomphe is going to be running.
As the few seconds remain, could see a potential swap up here with the doors opening once evaluating Celtic Cross composition. Slowly moving to the payload, getting some early coverage with this damage just going to be funneled with that Storm Arrow to take down the shields. Both already practically eliminated until the refresh with Silly Banana launching it up front. Nice May wall to block some of that damage, rotating around the backside. Celtic waiting to engage around this pillar and looking for the underpass to approach. As the Halt's going to pull a few members in, the Kinetic Grass going to mitigate it, but the damage is still high for Celtic Cross to keep this contest. Kinetic Grass mitigating most of it and really just at a standstill.
I actually love the Immortality Field that got placed there by Mankey. They're not going to have it for later, but it did give them sustain, and they're winning out this fight.
Great job for Aegis to get that early advantage. The high ground face-off between the Hanzos finally going in favor of Aegis. With the 3-minute time bank turning this corner, and Celtic Cross will have another attempt, but needs to be careful entering into this fight.
They do, because there's ultimates online already for Aegis Triomphe. There's that window of opportunity that we like to talk about on that Baptiste, that amplification matrix set up on the cart is just going to be able to raid damage into the straightaway that Celtic Cross Revenant's walking into. But I want to see Aegis Triomphe be careful because Peanut's ready to go with a Blizzard to fire back.
Wall going to block some positioning and sightline here early. Shammy taking out Big Nick, though, quickly as the Blizzard is a good chance to try and stop any aggression from Aegis. Jumping back and pushing forward with 2 minutes and 25 seconds. This is going to mostly be Celtic's fight with Aegis resetting.
This is really unfortunate for Aegis Triomphe because now the tactical advantage sits with Celtic Cross Revenant. The respawns are going to be closer, and there's not too many ways that you can approach this part of Point A for Aegis Triomphe. Either you're walking through the streets or you have to take a really awkward flank, and that's going to provide so many sightlines for Sterben.
Salty Wolf already being picked out of the fight early, going to make it really difficult for any sort of engage, really running the clock here. And you see Celtic acknowledging this and trying to press forward around that curvature underneath the bridgeway to really keep the pressure high.
Yeah, the pressure is super high right now. You could see that Celtic Cross Revenant is just trying to create as much space as possible because now that the cart is moving backwards, the defensive strategy also has to move forward here for Celtic Cross. So they want to just try to take as many advantages as possible, and that's going to be sitting right underneath that gas station. No Maywall to really disrupt their defensive hold yet.
Both Dragon Strikes coming out. Cryo Freeze is also expended on the front side, so no defensive for the mains as the Freeze comes out in the back side. Flux into multiple members, but the Transcendence is there to hopefully survive through the incoming damage. Aegis getting some great picks to counter that engage with a decent turnaround there, and will look to reach this checkpoint.
Oh, Salty Wolf is using those Discord orbs so well right now. I'm really proud watching this Zenyatta pop off because it only works if the team is right behind you. And one of the reasons why the Transcendence healing from Sly RL wasn't enough for Celtic Cross Revenant is because of the Discord orbs that Salty Wolf was providing. It was just too much damage for the Transcendence to outdo. So great work by Aegis Triomphe getting this point A, and now they get to roll into point 2 with a couple more ultimates. That Transcendence is going to be so valuable against what Celtic Cross Revenant's coming back with the Supercharger and the Amplification Matrix. Just so much damage.
What a great halt to pull Celtic off the high ground here from Aegis with the accretion follow. Supercharger going to lead into this turn. Halt going to consistently pull members out, but that May wall from Celtic consistently holding and giving space for the team to respect that aggression as the Flux is going to pull multiple members up. Regardless of that, Immortality Field will get the kill onto Silly Banana just outside of the circle on that elevated lift. Mankey, barely alive, will finally go down, and the reset is here for Celtic to take this payload and stop its movement.
I like the patience that we saw from Aegis Triomphe. They lost a couple of members and they said, you know what, instead of expending ultimates here, we're just going to go ahead and take the L on this one, force out as many as we can from Celtic Cross, and that way we can come back and our ultimates are going to hit harder and they're going to hit faster. So Aegis Triomphe now has 4 ultimates online. They potentially will have 5 with Shammy getting the Blizzard online as well. And they just have to pick at the litter of how they want to utilize these ultimates. How I want to see Aegis Triomphe move in with this, though, I want to see them utilize these dragons to just disrupt this defensive hold that Celtic Cross Revenant has on the high ground first.
Amplification Matrix, Blizzard going to come out. Here's the potential Dragon Strike going through the side positioning. Trying to get an early pick in the back, can't seem to do much. The separation and disruption was there, but because of an evenly distributed team for Celtic with a Supercharger, it really didn't matter.
Yeah, Transcendence, while it's a wonderful ultimate and it can soak up so much damage, sometimes it's just not enough when you also have an Amplification Matrix and a Supercharger. You're just outdoing it, and the Transcendence just doesn't last long enough. Salty Wolf also taking a lot of damage on the income here, but this is a much better place for the defense to be than the offense at the moment.
Celtic Cross throwing out the Dragon Strike right into the tank, does manage to get the damage. Here's a follow-up on the high ground. 60 seconds to go. This is really a last opportunity, but there's still some contest on the payload. Nice turnaround from Aegis regardless of the early pick from Celtic.
Ooh, and look at this aggression coming in from the Sigma on Aegis Triomphe just to ensure they get staggers and ensure that they're going to take the second point, but they also have to make sure the cart moves.
Yeah, it definitely has to digress back now that the stagger is there. It will take down Sturban on the high ground, though. Red team, it will be Celtic trying to drop down to contest. The Wrecking Ball comes out even, looking to really harass Pile Drive for the stun, and the Transcendent's going to be forced here by Sly. Pressing this team of Aegis back, 20 seconds remaining. Shammy really needs to find a critical Blizzard here for this to go into their favor, as an early pick already comes out. The follow-up to take down the Immortality Field. But the Amp Matrix here are going to maybe give some chance to the side of Celtic, Necra.
Maybe did a little bit of a chance here, but the Blizzard is proving too much for Celtic Cross Revenant to deal with.
And that Blizzard gets some great usage. Dragon Strike through the center, though, on the payload. Still moving it. Just tucking themselves on the outside of those twisting dragons to survive through 1 minute and 25 seconds to work with. And that's not a lot of time here to push.
Not too much time, no. Aegis Triomphe really can't afford to get stopped on this cart at all here. But luckily for them, Celtic Cross Revenant doesn't have too much that they'll be able to get them off of this cart with. Yeah, Peanut's working up to a Blizzard, but if ever it can land some big damage with the Dragon Strike first, then that might be all she wrote.
Halt in the back, Immortality Field forced. Will use it to pass through to regroup for Celtic. Pushing on, Salty Wolf really looking for that Discord Orb to land on a few members up front as the halt comes out, but the Kinetic Grasp mitigates a lot of the damage. That Sigma being hyper-focused on the front since that shield will go down from the Discord. Blizzard on the point, just behind it for Peanut to claim advantage. The entire team of Celtic collapsing forward. Aegis overrun and having to evacuate any member of the halts to pull it in for the final kill. As that team bell does ring, 30 seconds left, with a couple ultimates to come back for Aegis.
Aegis Triomphe does have 30 seconds. They have a last chance here. They're going to want to bait out this immortality field so that the Gravitic Flux coming in very shortly will land. There's no defensive ultimate that they could really utilize here on the side of Celtic Cross Revenant just yet.
Both superchargers active. Who is going to get the opportunity for an early pick? It's going to be Sturban with the backside, managing to take down Salty Wolf. The collapse comes in, the triple almost going to get the quad, but it won't matter because Celtic Cross wins this second map on Route 66.
Route 66, Aegis Triumph's map pick. Celtic Cross Revenant just showing what they can do when their ultimate's on the field. So that's just sometimes what it comes down to. But I'm so impressed and I'm so proud of already the playstyle adjustments we're seeing from Aegis Triumph. Like, this was much closer than that first map.
It really was, and we're going to now see it go into the third map in just a moment. We will have a break, but just so you know, it's going to be a selection now from a hybrid map. So you can think and kind of put those gears in function to see what do you think we're going to see, Hollywood, Kings Row, or Eichenwald. But before we go, again, thank you so very much for tuning in. We'll be right back as we will bring you more action in just a moment. Hello and welcome back, everybody, as we are going into map 3. So far, Celtic Cross Revenant has been able to claim 2 maps over Aegis. Not yet taking a map score. Could potentially be the moment, though, as we go into Kings Row. I'm your caster, Rich Red, here with Necra. And Necra, what do you think we're going to see from this, and what could Aegis do to start really turning this around on this map?
I'd like to see Aegis Triumph utilize aggression a little bit more. Maybe that's running a Death Ball composition with an Orisa and a Reinhardt. But as it stands right now, Celtic Cross Revenant is setting the pace of a lot of these matches. So it's been difficult for Aegis Triumph to find their footing. But the second map was already closer than the first, so I'm expecting even more out of Kings Row.
Definitely, and it's really just going to be how the amount of presence from, especially now Aegis being on the defensive side, because Aegis is going to be defending first, the ability to hold this point, because if we do relate back to the control point, it was very difficult for Aegis to maintain point presence. So it's really going to start transitioning into their ability to stop this movement, similar to how the escort phase was on Route 66, and really trying to use that segment of this hybrid map to their advantage.
I think you're right about that. I mean, there's just so much to be said about hybrid in terms of having to adjust your playstyle halfway through the map, right? So I think that that's going to speak volumes to kind of the level of the teams that we're seeing. And Aegis Triumph here, setting up on the defense, is actually going with a Death Ball composition that I was talking about, with the Reinhardt coming out and Silly Banana on that Orisa. So I would have liked to maybe see Everett switch over to a Reaper, but we're seeing something pretty similar on the side of Celtic Cross. But instead of that Reinhardt, we are going to have a Sigma. I just wish it was a Reinhardt.
I know. Reinhardt, again, it's so great to at least get to see him. Reinhardt! As there's 4 minutes now for Celtic Cross, and they're going to take this high ground position early.
Yeah, are going to take the high ground position early, but this is a really unique way to be approaching this point. You don't see a whole lot of teams take this approach just because it is a little bit difficult to get all the way around, but this is going to mean that Celtic Cross Revenant can just get the drop on their opponents.
Yeah, and I am quite surprised at how able Celtic was to regain composure. The halt almost bringing down Peanut, which would have spelled disaster, but this is already 40 seconds committed to this, so it's really going to lead into this fight now, completely switching sides. That Aegis is going to get a nice separation in the wall with the Reaper play in the back by Sturban, collapsing down. Numbers advantage on the point in favor of Celtic, but no real picks just yet. Starting to claim this first tick here.
And they are going to start to claim the first tick, and shields are getting so low for the side of Aegis Triumph. Celtic Cross is doing a great job of bullying those down.
Already gaining the tick now. The Bionade forcing Aegis back. The Dragon Strike into the Amplification Matrix, though, could get a lot of value. Will take down some members' health values as the executions come in. Mankey getting rid of that support play. And a recovery here by Aegis done very well despite the coordinated movement around that control point.
So I'll be honest, the reason why I called that engagement really interesting coming out from Celtic Cross Revenant is because I partially just don't agree with it. They spent so much time getting set up on the high ground. You called it out 40 seconds. and they didn't really get a whole lot done with it. Now they're switching things up yet again here. SlyRL and John are actually moving their support choices over to what's a bit more standard here without that Ana. And Aegis Triomphe, though, they're going to have ultimates to use here that they haven't used yet to be able to hold this point.
Immortality Field out on the front with the Blizzard going to be able to lock down a few members, but the Transcendence is there to reply. Shammy getting a nice kill, follow-up in addition. This defensive hold working out very well for Aegis, but a second tick, it's the slow and steady push.
It is the slow and steady push because now Celtic Cross Revenant has a chance to fire back. Aegis Triumph's hope for holding this point is going to be using Silly Bananas Supercharger, which thankfully they're able to get back to this fight in time, but using the Supercharger and making sure that they get value from it, because or just sniping people out before they get to point.
Yeah, that Fire Strike, getting the Zen play was super critical now to run the clock a little bit more just to reach that, last chance for Celtic to really get on this point and claim it.
Running out the clock is definitely a huge factor here, and Aegis Triumph is already proving so much better on the Orisa and the Reinhardt. I'm so happy to see this because now they're rewarded with both of those frontline ultimates.
Halt into the Flux. Dragon Strike going to try and counter that ultimate usage. The Immortality Field for both sides yielding a lot of value defensively, but even more so in the favor of Aegis. Looking to maneuver around through that hotel and the ice wall. Big Nick trying to do as much work as possible, especially with that amplification matrix out to press forward. But still, lots of damage by the Hanzo and the Mei on this consistent defensive hold. Earthshatter going to come out, knocking over one, the Fortify to prevent it. But again, that Discord Orb causing so much harass on the Orisa.
Yeah, the Discord Orb is so hard because as soon as a shield goes down, even if the experimental barrier just wicks away, it's an immediate Discord Orb. So you've got to be super careful, but Amplification Matrix as well is something you've got to worry about.
Boosting that Fire Strike, getting a lot of aggression. Here comes the Transcendence. Going to be moments too late, though. Dead Blossom in the back, though, getting all 6 members! Oh my goodness! Supercharger boosting it. Breathtaking play! Allowing Celtic Cross to now have 2 minutes and 20 seconds to work with.
That was almost a full hold, Rich. And Disturbance said, you know what? I don't think so.
I mean, what a timed play to get that. And the Supercharger boosted damage to ensure the 6. Guarantee you, feeling super proud of that moment.
I'm sure they're feeling proud because now Celtic Cross Revenant, the team that's taken this match over by storm, looks like they're on the back foot here. Aegis Triumph has a whole newfound confidence.
Transcendence going to be forced out defensively for Salty Wolf as the Blizzard comes out seconds late, so it might not be as beneficial as it could have been with now Celtic Cross in a momentum that is just snowballing.
They are snowballing this pretty hard forward, and Celtic Cross Revenant has the ability to continue to snowball it. Vintaggio taking up the reign, taking the helm of this ship, does have the Gravitic Flux online, and yet again, we don't have an answer ready to go from Aegis Triumph. So if Celtic Cross Revenant can bait out the Immortality Field, they might be able to just roll through this third point too.
Pressing forward again, this is the difficult spot in this final segment of King's Row. Maywall going to try and block a few members as the payload continues to press forward. The Fire Strike and halt damage really just needing to be landed for Aegis. The Amplification Matrix will be used. Nice separation, though. Maybe going to get that kill onto the Sigma play, but that shield still continues to maintain high as the Flux drops multiple members down from the sky. Fortify and the Cryo Freeze will not be long enough. And 2 minutes to go. Supercharger still landing and used by Aegis, but can't really get too much value since Peanut takes it down.
Oh, I really want to see Aegis Triumph just move forward here. Yeah, they lost members, but now they're giving up so much space.
Earthshatter looking to try and gain some value. Here comes that aggression for the last few meters. Mankey with the Amplification Matrix going to get a nice hold potential, but the Blizzard could just be the opportunity to turn this around. 2 in the front as their damage to follow up onto the point. The payload still continuing to get contested, and the respawn with Aegis might just be enough to reset this regardless of the minute 30, and will do so.
Huge respawn. That was a huge Immortality Field. Mankey, you just saved that push for your team. And now, Aegis Triumph, the fact that they can restabilize, they have a really great shot at keeping Celtic Cross Revenant from taking all 3 points. This is huge.
And you can hear those orbs volley in the back from Salty Wolf. Maybe going to start whittling down that health value as there's 60 seconds to go. Really using that Maywall to block the damage, pushing forward. Not going yet to that side corridor, but that Discord orb causing a lot of problems here for Big Nick on the front. Dragon Strike going to come through as well. Immortality Field has to be committed to keep alive. Cryo Freeze will be used in addition for Celtic. This 45 seconds remaining. Peanut gets the kill. Now with the Blizzard to be dropped in the back line as the Flux comes out. Transcendence on the high ground, going to mitigate a lot of damage, but still 6 versus 4 as Aegis has to get back into this fight quickly. The Baptiste going to regroup on the point with the Immortality Field, but so many numbers by Celtic overwhelming the remaining members to try and get back out of this. The Tracer and Wrecking Ball cannot make it in time. 28 seconds left on the clock. We're going to see now how the turnaround or the changeover happens with Celtic on the defense.
Celtic did end all 3 points with some time on the clock, so this is still a winnable position for Aegis Triumph to be in. They really want to even the score here, but they were hoping to have that in overtime so that if they were to finish 3 points with over a minute left, then they'd be the only team to do so. But that's not how the tables have decided to fall today. Celtic Cross Revenant now on the defense here has a unique opportunity as well to see if they can try to match the behemoth hold that Aegis Triumph had on that first point.
And I'm really curious from a defensive standpoint how Celtic Cross Revenant is going to select this with these few seconds to go, because we saw them play a little bit of that, different type of style with that just, backline overhead position to try and route Aegis, and then coming in with a slow, steady, just macro push versus just aggression, slowly getting it at the end and barely claiming it with that 6 kill from the Death Blossom. But on the defensive side, we're going to see the same composition, and really just interested to see how Aegis is going to try and compete against this.
I think it's dishing out a little bit of their own medicine here. You can see Everett hovering over the Reaper. So maybe, just maybe, we're going to see a bit more of a Death Ball composition come out here as well. They're a little unsure, though. You could see them talking and communicating about what they want to run. And even now, Mankey still seems a little bit unsure about what they want to play for this first match. But it's going to be that Baptiste, it's going to be the Zenyatta, it's going to be the Double Shield, and of course, that Reaper May.
Seeing if Aegis can pull the same type of outcome with Everett on that Reaper play. Looking to maneuver through and near this hotel potentially. Waiting for that pick potential. Nice job. There it is. Doorway potentially open for Aegis to move on. The separation of the Cryo Freeze by Peanut will be difficult, but the wall separating another. There it is. Great pickup. The wall to block any others from Celtic to really hold on to this point. And I gotta say, Aegis has really turned this around from their, last couple matches.
Aegis really has turned this around. I mean, look at the disruption tactic that they're using against Celtic Cross Revenant. This looks like a completely different team, Rich.
Really does, as the payload will be now starting to maneuver forward. 5 minutes and 25 seconds. The aggression comes out early on the front side for Aegis to try and get some pick damage, allows Shami to reach this Blizzard to have for the next fight once Celtic reconvenes towards that street phase, and potentially going to hold by the bookstore.
Oh, and look at this. Look at Celtic Cross Revenant right now. They're trying to be a little sneaky, but guess who finds them out?
Yeah, at that point, it would have been actually really bad if Aegis continued to move forward and actually found the two of them. Probably could have gotten the picks and was able to retreat back, but manages now to regroup with the rest of the team. Celtic having that amplification matrix ready to use and going to need to find a good time to use it, especially through this consistent push. The Dragon Strike through the wall with the Blizzard to try and counter. Silly Banana diving forward to contest. Nice accretion in the back, and just this snowball that we thought we saw from Celtic was the only one. Aegis is doing the same thing.
Aegis is definitely doing the same thing. Rewarded with a team kill bell. They'll also be rewarded with point B of King's Row. And look at the ultimates that they're going to be rolling into the third point with, Rich. It's basically a full slate here. And Everett's ready. They want to steal that play of the game.
Totally does. 5 minutes and 40. Lots of time to potentially do it. Almost 5 ultimates here going to get it into this next push, and there's a lot riding on the shoulders of Celtic Cross to make sure that this does not start to go heavily in favor of Aegis.
Well, it's going to be a Blizzard to kick things off.
Getting a nice freeze, looking for the follow-up. Is there damage to really assist, though? Pressing on, the wall will block a few. There's Big Nick jumping up front with Sturban, getting a couple good kills, resetting the team, and this is the first of hopefully many that Celtic is looking to have.
Celtic Cross only had to use the Blizzard here, which is good for them, because now they have to just bait out some ultimates here, and then maybe, just maybe, using ultimates to set the pace here is going to be enough for Celtic Cross Revenant to actually keep winning out these team fights. They're able to stabilize here, but Aegis Triomphe still has 5 ultimates to use.
Supercharger, lots of damage, but multiple members into the Flux. Great haul, but the Death Blossom now coming out. It will be a Transcendence to counter. No 6-stack for Aegis. Ultimate's still held on to regardless, as Celtic has to force the Supercharger, really just trying to buy their time with these ultimates to prevent Aegis from getting any more momentum forward. Both supports actually going to commit these for Aegis. Dragon Strike going to try and get that last few bits of damage to shut down the aggression from Aegis. Manages to do it. 4 minutes and 15, and a cleanup here for Celtic.
That was so expensive for both teams. Both teams ended up popping 2 or 3 ultimates apiece. And now the ultimate economy is kind of in Celtic Cross Revenant's favor. They've got a Blizzard and Shami super close, but not quite there yet. So Peanut's going to feel a little bit more ability to pop this Blizzard first.
Looking for a halt, trying to get some few members out in the open. Here's the Blizzard drop. Aggression, there's the wall to prevent anybody from leaving, but it doesn't matter. Well-placed Blizzard locks down 2 right in the heart of it. With 3 minutes and 35 seconds, still consistent ultimate rotation here, and what a great job by Celtic to change this up and really start holding after how Aegis has been pushing.
Yeah, Celtic Cross Revenant looked like they were caught by surprise by how much Aegis Triumph actually adjusted to their playstyle, because that was a pretty significant push without much pushback coming in from Celtic Cross Revenant. But now the pushback is real, Rich. Celtic Cross Revenant knows how to hold on to the rest of this point, and it's going to be up to Aegis Triumph to utilize this Blizzard to see if they can create an opening.
Shami leading in, but unfortunately the 2 with the able to stand away. Actually, there's a nice accretion immediately after. The Fortify was there for Big Nick not to get frozen, but taken back. As the Flux comes out from Nade, looking to get the kill onto that counter of Sigma. 2 minutes, 50 seconds, looking to turn this corner. Last chance for Celtic here to really hold it back.
It is going to be a last chance. I mean, 5 minutes is a behemoth of a time bank to work against. So the fact that Celtic Cross Revenant was able to get 2 minutes off of that clock, that's pretty significant here. But they're going to have to come back with everything they have in order to stop Aegis Triumph's momentum.
Transcendence leading into that Flux that's been activated. Multiple members surviving. Look at these Zens just making sure to keep their teams alive. Supercharger coming out. Nice accretion to stun and block it. But that damage is still capable of being used, as John has to use the defensive positioning to the advantage. That amplification matrix really not going to get anything, unfortunately, for how it was dropped. But regardless of it, Celtic's still going to clean up here with that respawn advantage, just under 5 meters.
You could maybe call that amplification matrix a tactical zoning ultimate there. Just really put Aegis Triumph back into in the corner, and it allowed Peanut to get a good wall. And then you had the follow-up there from Celtic Cross Revenant. Now we're back to square one of the ultimate rotation, where Peanut gets to hit a Blizzard and Shami can't.
With the wall on the high ground, going to block some vision. Dragon Strike going down the center, forcing Celtic away. Peanut trying to respond to that up front. The Immortality Field is there. Damage, hopefully, looking to force a few members back. Aegis will respect it and not going to try and keep out into that fight, as Celtic resets him one last time, and we are starting to get towards the tail end of this push.
Amazing 4 minutes off the clock here for Celtic Cross Revenant, which means that we have 1, maybe 2 team fights left if Aegis Triumph is able to come in. But they're starting to get up some ultimates of their own. Shami's closer to that Blizzard, and we all know how that one goes.
Supercharger for boosted damage on the inner side for Celtic to try and turn this back. Amplification Matrix Mankey hoping to give some assistance, but Celtic again dominating. Big Nick on the front with that Orisa. That damage has just been so significant with a Supercharger. 45 seconds. And this could be Celtic putting the nail in the coffin and kicking Aegis out of this single elimination.
If you have an accurate, mechanically skilled Orisa on your team, that supercharger can make you a deleting machine. So it's been so fun to watch these Orisas go at it with each other with those superchargers. But now this is Aegis Triumph's last chance. They've got to use this Blizzard.
Transcendence to try and counter the incoming damage. The Blizzard by Shammy not going to gain nearly as much out as they would have liked. Cleaning up with Celtic on the front side. Dragon Strike to get the final pick in the back. The bell shall ring. The time runs dry. And now Celtic Cross Revenant claims victory on King's Row, making it a 3-map win over Aegis and continues to move through this Breakable Barriers bracket.
Oh, what a valiant effort by Aegis Triumph, though. I mean, the fact is, I think they just couldn't adjust the way that they were hoping to, but man, did they make some good adjustments.
Here's a bird's eye view in the backside, getting a huge positional advantage. The halt into the center of it to stack it up for a team kill. And as we did talk about this a little bit, that last positioning for King's Row is a doozy to work through, and you can see exactly why with Celtic Cross rotating ultimates, coordinating, and playing properly around the edge. And again, moving forward, we see Celtic Cross. We will be able to bring you more action very soon, though, friends, as it will be a jam-packed day worth of Overwatch working through the bracket. Again, I'm Rentrad here with Necro. We'll be back with some more Overwatch very soon, so don't go anywhere, because we've got a lot to bring you.